Good evening, Dacusville Elementary School. This is fifth grade teacher Daniel Furr, and I'm here to talk tonight to my fifth grade students and their fifth grade parents about the top things that fifth grade parents need to know for their child to have a successful year at Dacusville Elementary School. The first thing that we're going to talk about this evening is the importance of parent teacher communication between home and school. I believe it's one of the most important aspects for a child to have a very successful school year. I believe that parents and teachers must work consistently together and with one another so that the child knows that the same expectations are expected at school and the same expectations are expected at home. If parents and teachers work together and can use those skills of cooperation and teamwork, then I believe it helps the whole child learn throughout the school year successfully. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about this evening are the major topics that we're going to cover this year in reading and writing. In reading, we're going to talk about a variety of topics that fall under literary elements and then elements of nonfiction. Under the literary elements, we'll talk about main idea and supporting details. We're going to talk about story elements such as settings and characters and plot and theme. We're also going to talk about the mood and the tone and using senses of imagery within text. We're also going to study different types of figurative language, and we'll study idioms and proverbs and adages. We will also study the three types of point of view with first person, second person, and third person. These are just some of the many topics that fall under the literary elements. In elements of nonfiction, we will study text structures that include cause and effect, problem and solution, sequence, description, and compare and contrast. We will also study primary and secondary sources and what sources of research look like and how we can differentiate and tell the difference between the two. We will also study firsthand and secondhand account under point of view for nonfiction, and we'll talk about the differences in the accounts there. We will also study vocabulary this year, and in vocabulary we will focus on Greek and Latin roots for the school year, prefixes and suffixes, and how we can break down the word within the word. In writing, we will focus on the four main types of writing in fifth grade. Those include narratives, which is called an autobiographical sketch. That's where a child takes a small glimpse of their life and writes about a big moment in a short period of time. We're going to talk about informational writing, and we're going to do research projects and then take that research and apply it in a writing of an essay or putting it in Google Slides or typing the composition out as a final draft. We will also talk about argumentative and opinionated writings, where a student has to come up with a claim and find evidence and facts and reasons to support that claim. And then finally, we will talk about text-dependent analysis writing. That's where a child has to read a passage or text and then has to read over a writing prompt and write to that prompt by analyzing the text and citing evidence from the text to support the writing from the reading. These are some of the many things that we will study this year in fifth grade reading and writing. The last thing that I want to leave you with this evening is talking about some tips to help you with your child at home, especially in the area of reading. The number one thing that I believe parents can do with their students at home is to take turns reading different pages in a book. Maybe you're sitting beside your child, have them read a page, and then you read a page. Maybe it's not even a page, maybe it's a paragraph. And then once you finish reading that, talk to your child and ask them questions about what they read about. Talk about the characters and how they're changing in the book, and the setting and how the setting affects the characters and what they're going through. Maybe you're towards the end of the book and you can start talking about the theme and the lesson that you learned from reading the book. Maybe it's a simple strategy that you read over something and you're asking questions and the child may not quite understand what they read. Go back and reread that passage. Rereading is a fantastic strategy to use and something that we as adults even use day in and day out. I know personally I have to go back and reread emails and messages. I have to listen to voicemails more than once. So that's a great strategy to practice over and over again in your home. And then also writing about what you read. Writing a sentence or two summary or no more than 3 sentences about what you read about the previous night and explain that in your own words. These are some of the many strategies that you can use to help you at home on top of many other strategies, such as using flashcards to write down vocabulary words, maybe words that you didn't know the meaning of or words that you've never seen before that you couldn't pronounce. And then you can use your Chromebook later that night to look up the meaning of the word and help with understanding of different words, and then also expanding your vocabulary on top of that. As always, if you need anything as far as tips, strategies, or help and other resources, please contact me by email or by phone in my classroom, and I will be glad to provide you more resources to help you at home working with your child. I look forward to working with you this fifth grade year. Thank you.
Hi, I am fifth grade teacher Catherine or Katie Perry, and now I'm going to talk to you about the major things that we will be learning in math and science here in fifth grade. So, first up in math, we're going to be starting off with plotting points in the first quadrant. We will also be talking about our base 10 number system and thinking about place value and those kinds of things. We are also going to be learning how to read and write decimals, as well as adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing both decimals and fractions. We are also going to be covering how to convert measurements, so within customary and the metric system. And we're also going to be focusing a lot on order of operations, thinking about parentheses and what order to complete a math problem in. For science, the four main topics that we will cover this year is matter and mixtures, changes in landforms and oceans, relationships and ecosystems, which is what we are starting out the year with right now, and we will also be doing forces and motions in the spring. So those are the main topics that we'll be covering. And now I want to talk to you about some different strategies that you can use with your student at home to support them in the classroom. So with math, one of the most important things you can do is practice your math facts with your students. So with flashcards or just asking them their addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division facts, because these are the building blocks in math. And if students are proficient and fast with these, then the next steps become a lot easier. So if they can get those down, that is fantastic. Also, reviewing their vocabulary in the different math units. So they will be learning different terms with each unit. And if you can review those terms with them at home, they'll have a better grasp. And when they come back to school, they'll be more proficient with that. And additionally, I just want to remind everyone that there are a multitude of different strategies to solve our math problems. So if your student comes home and they ask for your help and you don't recognize the strategy that we're doing, but you know a different one, that's okay. There are multiple different strategies, and so as long as we get to the right answer, I've told the students this, and that's okay. So work with your students with the strategies that you know how, because maybe it's one that we haven't learned in class and it actually helps the student out more. That is perfectly fine. With science, an important way that you can help support your student is, again, reviewing that vocabulary with them. Our science units are going to bring out some bigger words that the students are unfamiliar with. So the more that they are able to talk about these words and use them in conversation, the more comfortable they're going to be using those to explain our different scientific concepts. And along with that, another way you can support them is just talk to them about what they learned. So ask them questions when they get home about what we're going over in science, because if they can explain these scientific processes and they can repeat them back to another person, then they have really grasped the concept. So I think engaging in conversation and asking them about what they learned is a great way that you can support your students' growth. So just like Mr. First said, if you have any questions or concerns at all, please do not hesitate to send me an email or call me in my classroom, and I would be more than happy to help. And again, we really look forward to working with all of you and your students this year. Let us know if you need any help at all.